Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness, what a blockbuster this is. Jake Guentzel, breaking news in the NHL, has been traded to the Carolina Hurricanes in a blockbuster of a deal. Massive return in terms of quantity coming back to the Pittsburgh Penguins. We're going to start breaking it all down here in just a moment. Scrambling to go live here. Good thing we didn't go live like 4 hours ago when this trade first came out, but the details are just coming out that Jake Guentzel and Ty Smith have been traded from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Guentzel at 25% retained to the Hurricanes for Michael Bunting, Ville Koivunen, Vasili Ponomarev, Cruz Lucius, a conditional first and a conditional fifth from the Carolina Hurricanes. Huge return, and we're going to start breaking it down right now. All I got to do right now is just quickly pull up a few pieces of information on these prospects. I want to make sure that I'm not just talking out of my hat. I want to make sure that I'm telling you what I could do here. So the Penguins now, just the concept of trading Jake Guentzel, I'll start talking about that as I'm looking things up. The concept of trading Jake Guentzel already to me is a bit curious as a hockey fan. I would think that the Pittsburgh Penguins, although they had a difficult season this year, to see vintage Crosby, to still have Malkin, to still have Letang, to still have these players signed on for multiple seasons, are they throwing in the towel? Are they saying, well, we weren't able to keep Guentzel anyways, so we may as well try and get value for him now? What are they trying to do? Are they moving into the rebuild? Is it the retool? These are good prospects coming back. These are solid pieces for the Penguins. But to move on from Jake Guentzel, possibly Crosby's best winger that he ever had, that's a big statement, but one of Crosby's best wingers that he's ever had, a player with incredible hockey IQ, a guy who can score 30, 40 goals. Huge pickup for the Carolina Hurricanes. Now the question as well for the Hurricanes will be, can we sign him longer term? Can we keep him on to a type of extension, as the Hurricanes are not typically, as I've been reading, and as we, if you know the Hurricanes, not typically a team that likes to go for the rentals. They like to find a good connection and sign that player longer term. So if you're just joining, once again, the return on Jake Guentzel and Ty Smith is Michael Bunting, Ville Koivunen, Vasili Ponomarev, Cruz Lucius, and a conditional first with also a conditional fifth tacked on. We're going to get breaking it all down in just a moment. Once I can just pull up, there's a lot of prospects here, so I'll make sure that I'm able to show you the proper information on each one, and we can break it down without me just talking out of the sky here. I can actually show you the numbers to back up what I'm trying to say. Koivunen, really good prospect. I think he's probably the headlining piece that the Penguins get back here. Ponomarev was once a first-round prospect. He was drafted in the second round by the Hurricanes, and I think I'm just about ready here to go onto the screen. All right. Okay, so here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Jake Guentzel, the full trade, first report, I believe, by Pierre LeBrun, is a Jake Guentzel at 25% retained, going to with Ty Smith to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Michael Bunting. There's the roster player, good player, can slot into the top six, middle six right away. Ville Koivunen, a former second-round pick. Vasili Ponomarev, former second-round pick. Cruz Lucius, who is a former, I was going to say a third, actually, a former fourth-round pick, young guy as well. On top of a first-round pick that is conditional. I believe it's more like a second-round pick that's conditional. It's a second that could become a first. Meanwhile, the conditional fifth is it's there or it's not there. The second could become a first, worst case, but it's a first-round pick that is only transferred if the Hurricanes win the Stanley Cup, I believe, if I read that right. And if they don't win the Cup, then it's a second. So wouldn't that not just be a second that turns into a conditional first? Yes, I believe it's Chaz Lucius's brother. I know I feel bad for Sid as well. I feel bad for Sid. So we're going to start breaking down this deal in just a moment here. Let's just check the most recent tweets. Carolina needs to win the Cup for Pittsburgh to get that fifth. Okay, so the fifth only goes if the Hurricanes win the Cup. Call what you want, but optic aside, it's a conditional second for now. Gotcha. For now, Penguins early is only guaranteed 20 second. Carolina needs to win 3 rounds. Oh, okay. So if they make the Stanley Cup final, the second becomes a first. And if they win a Stanley Cup, they get the fifth becomes a fourth. Is that it? Or is there no pick transfer at all? The details still coming out here as it's happening live. I'm glad we didn't go live 4 hours ago. But still, it seems like there's a bit of, if Carolina does not make the Stanley Cup final, the Penguins get Philadelphia as second instead of the first. So if the Hurricanes lose anywhere before the Stanley Cup final, the Penguins get a second instead of a first. I think that's clear, but I'm not sure what the difference between the fourth and the fifth will be. We're waiting on that, but not a big deal. Whether it be a fourth or a fifth, I think the value, the first and the second, is to matter about more. Now, The pick isn't the greatest piece right there. What you want to start looking at is who are these prospects and what do they mean? First and foremost, Jake Guentzel. Who is he as a player going to the Carolina Hurricanes? He is a high-end scoring winger who uses superb hockey IQ to create space and get pucks to high danger areas by shooting or passing. A very poor defensive player, but manages the puck well. Finishing hasn't been special lately. So as you can see here by the JFresh card, over the last 3 years of weighted average data, very valuable player in the 73rd percentile projected wins above replacement, but that is very much brought down by his extremely low levels of even strength defense. Look at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, 98th percentile of even strength offense. Add in the fact that he is in the 89th percentile for goals, 90th for primary assists. He draws a ton of penalties. He plays with high levels of competition, and he plays with he plays with and against the highest levels of competition in the NHL. The finishing has been so-so. Has taken a dip the last couple seasons here, but the offense continues to be very high, and his value continues to be high enough as well for the Penguins. As we look now a bit closer at the microstat card, according to JFresh, Jake Guentzel is the best winger that Sid ever had, a beast in the playoffs, one of the smartest players that he's seen on the Penguins, an incredibly versatile player who should be electric on Carolina's extended puck possessions. Assuming they can insulate/improve his defense, this should be great. So just this season, similar numbers, very high offense, even strength offense, very low even strength defense. Meanwhile, he does a lot so well. The top percentile for shots off high danger passes, amongst the absolute best in the league when it comes to goals, chances, shots, in-zone shot assists, shot contributions, chance contributions, so many things that he does well. Now, if you look at zone exits and hits and his even strength defense and all that, absolutely, even his finishing is much lower than where you would like it to be. But for what he does so well, that this is the type of player where it balances out. This is not a Tarasenko who has only offense and no defense, and you get burned big time for that. Guentzel is so smart, and he does what he does well, so well that you can live with the defense being as low as it is. But put him on one of the better defensive teams in the Carolina Hurricanes, insulate him with an incredible core around him, and that will only lead to better things. Now, going back the other way, let's start looking at the breakdown. Actually, no, I should finish up on Jake Guentzel here. Let's finish up here on Jake Guentzel. Third-round pick back in 2013. An incredible diamond in the rough for the Penguins, drafted 77th overall. To 466 points in 503 games as a Penguin. Over point per game this season. Hovering around point per game plus since pretty much his junior season. Rookie year, 33 and 40, sophomore 48 and 82, and since then, point per game plus around that area. Ridiculous. In the playoffs, 1 Stanley Cup ring, 58 points in 58 games. Huge return. If you're just joining us here, the return on Jake Guentzel, it is going to be Jake Guentzel at 25% retained and Ty Smith going to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Michael Bunting, Ville Koivunen, Vasili Ponomarev, Cruz Lucius, and a conditional 1st and 5th that could at worst be just a 2nd, or at its best be a 1st and a 4th, I believe. Depends on if the Hurricanes make the Stanley Cup final and or win the Stanley Cup. Yeah, we were waiting a long time on this blockbuster, and here it is. Subscribe if you haven't already for breaking news and analysis, especially heading into the trade deadline tomorrow. We'll have live coverage tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, this graphic does not show the trade accurately. We're not going to look at that. So Michael Bunting coming back the other way, but I would like to see we can just get quick metrics on Ty Smith. Ty Smith going the other way. He came to the Penguins in the John Marino trade with the Devils. That was an unfortunate deal for them. I think the Penguins definitely regret that. Ron Hextall, not one of his better moves. He has been pretty much in the AHL the entire time. Okay numbers with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins in the last couple seasons. 56 points in the last 90 games or so? Is that 90 games? So he's been okay. Does it force the Rangers to push for Buchnevich? I think they definitely push at least for Vetrano. So much quality over quantity. Yeah, that's a lot of quality. So much for quality over quantity. That's a lot more quantity. You're right, Matt. It's a lot more quantity. So Ty Smith going back the other way as well. The Penguins get to just dump him, 23 years old. If they don't think much is going to come from him, may as well get some value out of him right now. I don't know if there was a JFresh card on that. As a Penguins fan, he wasn't super excited on it. But no, not seeing Ty Smith, so we can just move on from that. Not much NHL experience really show anyway, so I guess that's why there wouldn't be a card. So Jake Guentzel, an incredible piece for the Carolina Hurricanes, especially on such a strong defensive squad. He is going to flourish in that system. A lot of trades have been saying that for recently. He's going to flourish in that system. He plays big minutes. He shoots at a great percentage. Down this year, his finishing is down, but I don't think that's going to be a big deal when you give him that Hurricane squad that can allow him to do what he's doing without having to worry about the defense as much. Yeah, Dan Wakabayashi getting traded next. Absolutely. So before we break down what the Hurricanes gave up just one more time, if you're just joining us, Jake Guentzel has been traded at 25% retained to the Carolina Hurricanes with Ty Smith in exchange for Michael Bunting, Ville Koivunen, Vasili Ponomarev, Cruz Lucius, and a conditional second and conditional fifth. At the very best, it could be a first and a fourth. At the very worst, it could be a second. It depends on if the Hurricanes make the Stanley Cup final and or win the Stanley Cup. Yeah, he's absolutely, Matthew. Well said. Gantz is going to help you boys over the hump. Guy is a beauty. So here comes the return now, Penguins fans. Get excited for this, hopefully. First and foremost, got Michael Bunting. Kyle Dubas gets his guy back in that he had in with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He is, according to Jay Fresh, a middle six complimentary winger, a solid chance creator next to the right line mates. He forechecks as well. Didn't fit in Carolina this season, especially defensively. So it's not to say that you just put any player in Carolina and they'll flourish defensively. Guentzel can still struggle there. Bunting, who had his own fair share of struggles defensively, did not really find his way with the Hurricanes. How much time did he spend with the Hurricanes? It was just this first season, 60 games. It was the first year of the contract that he signed there. It was, he's getting paid 4.5 for the next couple of years. Gotcha, yeah. So the Hurricanes moving on from Bunting in his first year with the Hurricanes here. It won't necessarily be a first gold, and it's a first if the Hurricanes... I think it's just make the Stanley Cup final for the first, and if it's they win the Stanley Cup, is it they get a fourth, or is it vice versa? I'm still a bit confused in that condition, but we'll get there. So Michael Bunting, as you can see, even strength offense, it's been there, but it's taken a big dip. You got to admit, it's been 71st percentile over the last 3 years of weighted average data, but that's with the Toronto Maple Leafs playing with Marner, playing with Matthews. Look at it this season, that's a big dip. The defense took a little bit of a dip. The finishing went up. That typically happens with a skilled player with less ice time, but that offense, primary assists, penalties, draws a lot of penalties. That's great, but he's not doing super well against against lower levels of competition with lower levels of teammates. So he's not really carrying his line either. So Michael Bunting's gonna get a new chance, a new lease on life with the Penguins. He can be a middle six guy over there. If he found life with the Maple Leafs and the lineup that they had, maybe he can find life with Crosby and how he turns and hit the Midas touch that Sidney Crosby has. So Michael Bunting, of course, very skilled player. Well, not very skilled. He was skilled, but I don't want to say that it was only the Maple Leafs, but definitely someone who flourished more in Toronto. 63 points, 49 points, went to free agency this year, 36 and 60 so far with the Hurricanes. If we look at the hockey ref numbers now, what kind of ice time was he getting in Carolina as opposed to in Toronto? Last 5 games. So he's been playing about the same amount of ice time, but a slower pace on the scoring, much worse plus minus, which cannot really be tolerated as much in that Carolina Hurricanes squad. So Michael Bunting going to the Penguins. He's still young enough, and he still enough, and he's shown enough in his career that I think the Penguins can say, all right, let's see what we can do with this guy. It allows them to also say, listen, we're not just getting prospects, we're getting a guy who can help us right now, plus guys who are going to help us down the road. All right. So now let's start looking at the prospect coming back to the Penguins. I'm going to start with the most exciting one, in my opinion, and that is Ville Koivunen. Ville Koivunen, I think, if I remember correctly, on Craig Button's top 50 under 20 list or something, he was somewhere in the 30s. Koivunen was drafted in the second round of 2021. He is a 20-year-old centerman who's playing with Karpat in Liga of Finland. 55 points in 57 games, almost point per game in a league with men at 20 years old. So this is definitely the biggest piece, I think, coming back to the Penguins in this deal. Koivunen is a fantastic prospect, very, very highly touted, and a great gem. The Hurricanes and their second round gems from Finland, name a better duo, right? So great gem that they found out of Finland. He's point per game right now with Karpat, and I think that the Penguins are going to be most excited about this piece coming back. So that's Koivunen. If you want to say a bit more about his game, he's a versatile forward with an eye for play creation. Looking here on Dobber Prospects. Oh, sorry, I was looking at, sorry, that's Ponomarev. Excuse me. I was going to say that didn't look like the right jersey. Excuse me. So Koivunen, a dual threat winger who makes his teammates better the second he steps on the ice. He is smart and skilled, playing off his line mates' strengths and adapting his game to theirs. He may not drive a line, but he will boost any line's production. So if we look down here, the most recent report in March of 2022, Koivunen's having a good season for Karpat, sitting 6th in team scoring, 29 points in 53 games. That was, sorry, March of 2022. Okay. I was going to say that's he has way more now. Keep an eye on the 18-year-old's development, as he is a young prospect playing against men in Finland. So not much for recent reports there on Koivunen, but as we can see by the numbers that we just looked here on HockeyDB, 55 points in 57 games with Karpat. Is he leading the team right now? Yes, he is. That's really something. These guys out here who are 27, 33, 32, these are guys who are below him in the scoring. Koivunen is carrying his team right now. 6-foot centerman, seems to really be able to hold his own against men there in Finland. 6-foot centerman at 20 years of age. This is the big piece coming back to the Penguins, Ville Koivunen. Now, who else are they picking up? They're also getting Vasili Ponomarev, another second-round pick back in 2020, another 2020 draft pick being traded today. Ponomarev was once thought of as a first-round pick. He ended up only getting drafted at 53rd overall. He's been in the AHL for most of his career, only 2 games in the NHL, 2 points in those 2 games. This year in the AHL, 29 points in 39 games. Another guy who just maybe there's not enough room for in the Carolina Hurricanes system. So if we look a little bit at Ponomarev, versatile forward with an eye for play creation, loves to get in on the forecheck. In January of 2024, looking at the most recent report on him, it was a weird start to the year for Ponomarev, who had a stellar prospect in training camp for the Hurricanes, and he had a real shot to make the team out of camp, but he got hurt right before the start of the year. That derailed his chances. Ponomarev then heads to the AHL level, where for the Tucson Roadrunners and Chicago Wolves, he has 25 points in 25 games. That was as of January 2024. He then gets a call the Hurricanes. He has a great debut, 2 points in 2 games. His two-way play received high praise from head coach Gerard Brendamore, which makes it seem like Ponomarev is the first name on the call-up sheet when an injury happens, but he never came back since. Ponomarev's NHL projection long-term is a bottom 6 centerman with the ability to play on the penalty kill or the power play. We're up to 77 viewers now, so I just want to quickly recap here. If you weren't already hearing the return, the Carolina Hurricanes have acquired Jake Guentzel at 25% retained and Ty Smith from the Penguins in exchange for Michael Bunting to help right now for the forward core in Pittsburgh, then 3 prospects in Ville Koivunen, Vasili Ponomarev, and Cruz Lucius, as well as a conditional second that could become a first, and a conditional 5th that could become a 4th, depending on if the Hurricanes were to make the Stanley Cup final and or win the Stanley Cup. So, Tactics didn't like the return there, right? Subscribe if you haven't already for breaking news and analysis for all trades here at the NHL for the 2024 NHL trade deadline. We'll be live tomorrow for more coverage. Let's move on to Cruz Lucius now, brother of Chaz Lucius. Cruz Lucius, a 4th-round pick in 2022. He's only 19 years of age. He's playing with the U of Wisconsin down in the USA. 31 points in 32 games. Point per game, 34 in 34 the year prior. I think Cruz Lucius was a sneaky good draft pick for the Hurricanes there in the 4th round. That was a solid pickup for them. And we see that he has value now as he gets flipped pretty much before he's even gotten a chance to play anywhere in the organization. So if we read a little bit more on Cruz Lucius, he is a dual-threat offensive winger with soft hands and an underrated shot. Needs to grow into his frame and add some pace to his play, but projects as a middle 6 winger. So if you got Lucius in the middle 6, you got Ponomarev on the middle 6, 2 third-liners right there. Koivunen, future top 6 player in my opinion. You throw Michael Bunting into the middle 6 as well. Throw a couple draft picks in on top of it, and for an expiring UFA and Jake Guentzel, as good as he is, I think it's a value that you can call, at least you can call a fair. Is it good? Is it enough? Is it going to make you happy? I don't know. That's you. That's a personal thing. You got to look inward. But is it fair? I think so. Back in June of 2023, Lucius's freshman year was a little bit surprising for the Wisconsin Badgers in the NCAA. After an injury-riddled draft year, most went into his freshman year not knowing what to expect from him. Lucius ended up putting up 34 points in 34 games, which led the Badgers in scoring. His hockey IQ is impressive for his age, and his defensive game was pretty solid, but one thing that he can work on to improve his overall game is adding a little more speed. But the more he gets in the weight room, the more that will improve. His projection for the NHL NHL is still probably around a middle six forward, but his production is certainly a good sign that there is still another level that he can achieve. So let's go and look at some of the comments here. A lot of you are weighing in here on the stream. Koivunen, yes, agreed. I just said that. You are very correct there, Jason. Koivunen, definitely the best prospect in this deal, in my opinion. He's been tearing up. Yeah, he's almost point per game in Liga right now. Matt commenting, the only way this trade really becomes a win for the Pens is if they re-sign Jake in the offseason. I'd say it's probably unlikely. I think the Hurricanes are going to are the most likely landing spot. I would think that Guentzel is going to sign long-term with the Hurricanes. If not, he's going to go to free agency. I don't know if he comes back to the Penguins. I don't know. I feel like if the Penguins thought they could keep him, they would re-sign him. Hard to know what direction they're going in. They get Bunting, they get prospects. They still have good older pieces. Malcolm Crosby, Letang. They just signed Jerry last offseason to his extension. I don't know what kind of direction are they going to be going in here. And yes, Mighty Mike, if the Hurricanes can sign him to a deal, that would make the trade even better, which I would think is very likely. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, but I would say it's quite likely. Evan, any chance we see any of these prospects on the Pens this year or next? I would say of those prospects, it's very likely you see Ponomarev the soonest. The soonest prospect that you would see would be Ponomarev. He's played a little bit in the NHL already. He's turning 22 in like a week, in 6 days from now. He has 29 points in 39 games in the AHL. He's done his time down there. I would think that he gets a call to the NHL with the Penguins even sometime this season, but he was almost made the opening night roster with the Hurricanes out of the camp this year. Injury derailed that a little bit, and now here he is in the AHL. So Ponomarev, I would say, is the one you'd see most soon in the NHL. Ville Koivunen, an incredible prospect, easily the best piece, I would say, in this deal for the Penguins. The Hurricanes had a lot to play around with a little bit here. They have Bradley Nadeau, they had Trikazov, they had Scott Morrow that some people were talking about, Heimo Salmi. I think a lot of people are also talking about Nikishin, but Nikishin definitely wouldn't have happened in my opinion. And that's about it. So they have a lot of second and third round prospects who they've put into their system. And now here they are dealing from a position of power. It's a couple of big ones for sure, especially Koivunen. That was definitely one of their top guys, I would say. Oh, there's a nice picture of him. And that's what it takes to get big guys like Jake Guentzel, especially if you're going to extend him long term. So just going over it one more time, if you're joining us after we've already gone through the majority of our breakdown here, of course, subscribe if you haven't already, as we'll be going live for all breaking news trades from now until the trade deadline. We've already done a ton of them. You can check out the channel for what we've already done. The computer's starting to lag up a little bit. We have so many windows open, a lot of tabs going. My apologies. And we'll be live tomorrow for NHL trade deadline coverage tomorrow afternoon. Jake Guentzel is a high-end scoring winger who uses superb hockey IQ to create space and get pucks to high-danger areas by shooting or passing. Now, his poor defensive, and not to say that it can just, snap your fingers, welcome to Carolina, you're better defensively, but he will be, if he can be insulated and utilized in the right situations. Like for example, if we're looking at the line combinations, let me try and put this into words. If you're going to put him, if you keep the first line, Svechnikov, Aho, Teravainen, give him a line where he's playing with Jordan Staal, Seth Jarvis, Martin Necas. Not to say he's a third line forward, but put him on a line where you're playing with those stronger two-way kind of guys, and he's the one driving the offense while being insulated by one of the best defensive cores in the league. That's a very different situation than the Penguins that are, they're dying to get anything to keep the puck out of the net. So Jake Guentzel's faults will be diminished or minimized a little bit, not vanish, but they will be minimized a little bit, because as we can see, he does so much so well. An incredibly versatile player who should be electric on Carolina's extended puck possessions. Look at this, the chances, the in-zone shots, the shots off high-danger passes, in-zone shot assists, in-zone offense, ridiculous numbers in the highest percentiles of the entire NHL. What is he not doing super well? The even strength of defense, the zone exits, the hits, his finishing has gone down a little bit. But when you think about the passing that he can and the offense that he can generate on already a solid offensive team, this just really sets the league on notice. There's a lot of teams that have gone kind of all in, and the Hurricanes, the Avalanche, teams that are making big moves. So you have other teams that are making other moves. The Lightning get get Anthony Duclair. The Kings are trying to get Tyler Toffoli. But when you think about which team is already in a great position and just added even more to it, the Hurricanes really separated themselves with this deal. They had to pay for it. They gave up good pieces. Michael Bunting, as much as he was struggling this year, he had good value as well. He was a piece that they were wanting to keep longer term. It wasn't working out right now, so they move him. He's a solid complementary winger. So you move out a complementary guy for someone who's going to be more of a star who moves into the complementary role. You got to hope someone that in that bottom six can do that. Doesn't make the Hurricanes the favorites in the East. I would still say that the Panthers are probably the favorites, but it definitely puts them in that top 3 conversation. They went from top 5 conversation to top 3 conversation with this trade, if not top 2 even. Biggest thing is how the foot speed translates over here. Yeah, he struggled in the AHL in his last stint this year, but it was his first time playing pro in North America, so definitely still hope for him to grow. Yeah, well said there, Jason. Well said. I would have liked the Penguins to have added a defenseman, because when I look at their defensive pool, they have like Owen Pickering. But same thing for the forwards. Who else do they really have? Samuel Poulin, guys who aren't doing anything. So you got to add somebody in there, and that's what they did here. They added 3 forwards to their core. Guys from middle 6, top 6 forwards, in my opinion. And you get to move out Ty Smith on top of it, which wasn't really working out. And you bring in Michael Bunting, who should be able to help you right now for the next couple of years. He's 28. You'll have him at 29, at 30. You're going to have him playing a nitty-gritty game. Hopefully recapture some of the magic that he had when he played with Toronto a couple of years ago. Just this year, you see the numbers change very much if you're looking at just this year. 92nd percentile of primary assists. That goes down to 82. Not a huge drop, but down from 92 to 82 when you look at just this season. So it's I don't know. I wouldn't say it's super scary. I think Michael Bunting's coming back down to earth. But him coming back down to earth is not him going back to the cellar where he was with the Coyotes. I think he can still be a very good middle 6 forward. Give him the right team, or just give him the right opportunities, I should say, playing the more of the top 6 minutes with guys like Crosby and Malkin, like when he was doing well with Matthews and Marner. Is it just that he was benefiting from them? Does he actually have it in himself to do it? We'll see. Will he put up more points on Malkin's wing? We'll see. So Michael Bunting comes back in that deal with 3 prospects. You got Cruz Lucius, a former 4th round pick in 2022, point per game at the University of Wisconsin. You get Ville Koivunen, who's point per game in Liga, 20 years old, playing against men. And you get Vasili Ponomarev, who has played a little bit of NHL experience. He should be ready to go in the NHL. I would say a full-time Penguin as soon as next season, maybe even see some games this year. And the Penguins get to dump Ty Smith and say, hey, thanks for whatever. Didn't work out with the John Marino trade. Now we'll move on from here. Let's see. Let's move to some of your thoughts, and let's get back into the comments here. Secret joining. Just joined the stream. I'm a Pens fan. How bad did we get fleeced? I wouldn't call it a fleece there, Secret. I wouldn't call it a fleece. I think that it's going to be a trade that if you're moving Jake Guentzel, now here's the thing. If you're moving Jake Guentzel, you got good value. Personally, I would say there's more value in not moving Jake Guentzel. But if you know you're not going to be able to bring him back, getting 3 prospects with middle 6 to top 6 potential, and you get a second that can become a first, and you get a 5th that become a 4th. You get a couple of draft picks already for your depleted system. We'll take a look at that in a second. You get a couple of draft picks. You get 3 solid prospects, including one I would probably put him in the blue chip category in Koivunen. And you get Michael Bunting, who's going to help and be a middle 6 guy who carries value in and of himself. If you're going to say that we want to try and run it back next year, let's try and be a stronger team next season, but with a stronger prospect pool, Michael Bunting would be the kind of guy that you want to bring back, and that's what they did. Now, take out Guentzel, put in Bunting. Are you a better team? I don't think so. But if you're bringing in Bunting and you can bring in some other pieces in free agency or whatever else, and you can also do it while having a stronger prospect pool, well, that's very much necessary. You know what? I was thinking that it was going to be Kako and like a first and Othman or something going back to if it was going to be Guentzel to the Rangers. Lucius is very interesting. Great shot and hands. I don't know if he's a guy that has top 6 potential. I'd say probably more middle 6, but I'd say at least he's a top 9 guy. Yeah, well said, Jason. And can be in a power play potentially down the line. Yes. 100%. One last thing I didn't look at was looking at the teams and their current situations to draft picks now. Sorry, I didn't look at I was focused so much on the players, I didn't look at the draft picks now. So where does that leave the Penguins and the Hurricanes in terms of their cap space and their draft picks? Remember to subscribe if you haven't already for all the breaking news and analysis for all the trades for the trade deadline, moving into the offseason, the draft. We're always breaking news live here on the channel, NHL 24 franchise mode, career simulations, and a lot more. Take a second, check out the channel. We'd love to have you join the team. So the Penguins now at $3.725 million in deadline cap space. They have no first in 2024. So it's the Flyers' second, which could become the Hurricanes' first if they make it to the Stanley Cup final. So that's the condition now. It's the Flyers' second at worst case scenario. If the Hurricanes make the Stanley Cup final in 2024, it becomes the Hurricanes' first. So they can either have no first 2 seconds or 1 first, 1 second. They have no third of their own, no fifth of their own. And then when it comes to the conditional fourth or fifth, Cat Friendly doesn't have it here, eh? No news on Toffoli yet. Who has the Penguins first? That's the Sharks have that in the Erik Karlsson deal. I could see that. Jerry, I'm not a huge Jerry guy. I see what you're saying, though. Pens have cap room next year too. They could re-sign him after all this, and then really, yeah. If they were to re-sign, if they were to get Guentzel back, oh my goodness, that would be one of the biggest wins in trade history, right? But I don't know. I think the Hurricanes are really going to go heavy on trying to extend him. So what do you got to do next season? You got money freeing up from Jeff Carter. You got not much else being freed up. You got to reassign your depth. But aside from that, Crosby, Malkin, Raquel, Smith, Bunting, Eller, Achari, Letang, Karlsson, Graves, Pettersson, Jarry, all signed on for next season. This is still a good team here in Pittsburgh, and at least they can say, let's regroup, let's try and do something, let's try and be players in free agency, but let's do it with a replenished prospect pool, because honestly, we had nobody. We had Owen Pickering. Who else did the Penguins have in here? Isaac Beliveau. Who else did they have really in there? No one who's under like 21. Pieniemi, Joel Blomqvist as the goalie. Yeah, so they're definitely going to need that. And then, you know what? They might even have their first round pick. They might even have their own first round pick if they can drop into the bottom 10, as it's a top 10 protected pick. So they might even have their first. If they could have their first, then, you know, whether it be the Flyers second or the Carolina Hurricanes late first, hey, at least you got your own first. It's going to be top 10 protected. So that even adds more to the prospect pool that you're building here. Philip Hollander, he terminated his contract and went back to Europe because he was unhappy, I believe, Doggy. So now, what does that mean for the Hurricanes? What do they still have? Could they still be players? I don't think they're going to be doing much on deadline day tomorrow, or should I say today, as it's now past midnight Eastern. They have, let's see, they still have, is it really $5.877 million? Really? No, it can't be. Is it that much? Do they have that much to play with? Really, eh? Jake Guentzel is at 25% retained. That's true. Where is he's on the IR? Because he's on the IR. That's why. So when they activate him in his 4.5 million, okay. So when they activate him in his 4.5 million, it's actually 1.285. Yeah. Projected cap space. So 1.25 million, 285 million. Excuse me. So they could still play around with that. They still have all their seconds the next 3 years. They have a couple thirds, all their fourths. They could still do something, but I'm not sure if they will. I don't know, because they have Guentzel coming back from injury. Anderson just came back from injury. They had to waive D'Angelo. They had to waive Ranta. I'm not sure they want to bring in more, but they could. I wouldn't say that it would be unheard of or out of the question for the Hurricanes to do more. If it's top 10 in the draft, Penguins keep their pick and go up next year's first. That's exactly it, Fortnite fan. That's exactly it. So yeah, then into next year, the Hurricanes, they have Teravainen expiring. Necas needs a contract. Martinuk is expiring. Shea, Pesci, D'Angelo, of course, Guentzel. They have a lot to figure out going into next season. But for right now, they're in a good spot. They'll have a lot of cap space to sign the guys that they want to sign. And they still have a lot of picks to do it as well. Source on what exactly you're saying? Are you saying Simon's Tech? What source are you asking for? Do they go after Frank Vatrano? I think the Rangers are going to be heavy on Frank Vatrano now. I heard that. Now that they're out on Guentzel, the Rangers will be heavy on Frank Vatrano, in my opinion. Let's go back here. A lot of you are saying a lot of thoughts here. Let's go back over here. Kellen, I'm not going to lie. Nothing about hockey. Is this a good trade for the Canes? I know nothing about hockey. Sorry. I misread your comments. I'm not going to lie. I know nothing about hockey. Is this a good trade for the Canes? Yes. Did they give up one of their best prospects? Yes. Did they give up, decent value of draft picks? Yes. Did they give up a couple other pieces that would have been helpful for them in their future? Yes. But does Jake Guentzel put them on another level in 2024? And could he be a guy that they keep long term? Absolutely. So I think the Hurricanes got a very good, how could I say this? They gave up a lot and they got back a lot. How about that? They gave up a lot. They got back a lot. I think it's a very good trade for the Hurricanes. And it's hard to know the context exactly. Was Guentzel never coming back in Pittsburgh or what? Could he come back in the offseason? Who knows? I think the Penguins got as much value as they could get. I think maybe they could have gotten more draft pick value from one team. But if I can get a prospect that I'm high on, I'd rather take that prospect as opposed to getting picks. Would people be more happy if it was Koivunen and 2 firsts? I'd rather take Koivunen, Ponomarev, Lucius, a second that can become a first, and that other late pick. I think that's what I'd rather do. That's true. All-time playoff performer as well. What was the return on Jake Guentzel? Let's highlight it one last time. We're going to get ready to wrap this baby up, ladies and gentlemen. The return on Jake Guentzel at 25% retained, as well as Ty Smith, is Michael Bunting, Ville Koivunen, Vasili Ponomarev, Cruz Lucius, a second, Philadelphia's second that could become Carolina's first if they make the Stanley Cup final, and Carolina's fifth that could become Carolina's fourth if the Hurricanes win the Stanley Cup. The Penguins' first-round pick this year is top 10 protected. So, yeah, Kyle Dubas gets his guy back in Michael Bunting. They're currently short 2.2, so we can't complain. Therefore, additional moves need to be made before 5 p.m. So the Penguins could trade to decrease cap, or they could LTIR a player like Brian Rush. The Penguins still need to do something here, or reassignment. So whether it be trades or just paper moves, they'll have to do something here. Yeah. Oh, yeah, those are some good prospects. You can go back in the video and rewatch what I broke down on each one, but essentially, Cruz Lucius, point per game in the Big Ten with University of Wisconsin. I would say future top 9 forward, middle 6 guy. You got Vasili Ponomarev, former second-round pick, doing well in the AHL, was almost made the Hurricanes team to start the season, was dealing with injuries. He's been in the AHL. He should be with the Penguins very soon, I would think, at the latest to start next season. And Ville Koivunen, the biggest piece of this trade in terms of the prospects. He is point per game just about with Karpat of Liga in Finland, 20 years old, 6-foot centerman playing against men and leading his team in points. Second round pick in 2021. He will be an incredible piece for the Penguins. I would think future top 6 centerman for them. So I broke down the value on both sides a lot. I won't beat a dead horse here. I think we got the value pretty much said. It's unfortunate for the Penguins. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm keeping Jake Guentzel. But if you got to move him, it's a good deal. In terms of value, it's a good deal. Is it a good trade in terms of you just lost one of your best players and you're trying to win cups before your window closes? Maybe not. But is it a good trade in terms of the value that you got back? I think they got fair value. Like I said, would you rather take Koivunen in 2 firsts, or Koivunen, 2 prospects, another second that become a first, a roster player, et cetera, et cetera? I think you got to have that. Evan, thank you. No problem. Thanks for the recap. Learned a lot, and you got a sub. Thank you, Evan. Very much appreciate the love. Thank you for that. We'll be live. Thank you again. Thank you, Simon. We'll be live tomorrow. Trade deadline coverage tomorrow afternoon for a few hours, probably noon Eastern to 4 p.m. about that. Thank you very much for the love, everybody. Leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe. Join us in our Discord server. Link in the description. We're breaking news. We're talking hockey. We're talking franchise mode. Check out the channel if you haven't already. We're doing NHL 24 franchise mode, career simulations, and much more. It'll be that much stronger of a community with you as a part of it, and we would love to have you join us, whether it be on YouTube or joining us in our Discord server where we are always talking. I'm not making anything off of this. We're just talking hockey. We're having fun, and I'd love to have more people in there. We're over 600 in the Discord server. We're close to 7,500 on the channel. It's a great community, and I love trades like this where so many of us are in here and sharing our thoughts and breaking it all down. So the Carolina Hurricanes, they had some great prospects. They moved from a position of power. The Hurricanes got a lot stronger today. I would say they are at the top of the list here for the Eastern Conference. I would say the Bruins got to do something here. The Bruins got to wake up and do something because the Panthers have gotten stronger. The Rangers have gotten a little bit stronger. I would suspect that they get even more. The Hurricanes have gotten stronger. The Leafs have gotten stronger on the blue line. The Bruins would probably have to do something soon here. And the Hurricanes, who are currently sitting 8th in the NHL and second in the Metropolitan, yeah, they just got a lot better. I'm excited to see how Guentzel fits into the lineup, and I'm very excited to see how those prospects pan out for the Pittsburgh Penguins. You get 3 good prospects. Trades like this are the ones that you come back to in a few years and you say, wow. Will Guentzel extend? We don't know just yet. Yeah, I was checking for hours about this trade. We'll see tomorrow on Buchnevich and Toffoli. No news just yet, but we'll be waiting on them. We'll be live as soon as it breaks, so make sure you're subscribed with those notifications turned on because we will be breaking it the second it happens. I got the bat phone ready to go, the bat signal ready. My AGMs, my assistants in the Discord server are very helpful. Will Carolina make another trade? They certainly have the value and cap space to do it. So I would say it's a possibility, but I like the team how it looks right now. They put D'Angelo on waivers. They put Ranta on waivers. I'm not sure who else they could really bring in, but I could see them making some more moves if they wanted to. Thank you, everybody, for being here for this breakdown. It was a long night. It was a long couple days of trades. If you want to know my thoughts or the breakdown of any other trades that went down, check out the channel. Click on the YouTube channel and click on the live category. You can see the breakdown of the Duclair trade, the Perrault trade, the Edmondson trade, the Hannafin trade, looking at all the metrics and seeing what they can, those players can do for those teams. Where do Pittsburgh go from here trade-wise? Hard to say. It really depends on what direction they're going in. Are they full on sell, or do they only move Guentzel because he was an expiring piece who wasn't going to come back and they want to be adding more heading into next season? That's the thing. I think the Penguins want to add in free agency, but they can do it while saying at least we have a stronger prospect pool to fall back on and not be totally depleted once our core is finished in the next 2-3 years. So I'm saying a lot here. I'll go ahead and end it. It was a 40-minute breakdown. It was a big one. It was a huge blockbuster. Jake Guentzel to the Carolina Hurricanes with Ty Smith for 3 prospects, a roster player, 2 draft picks. Oh my goodness. Thank everybody for being here. We'll be live in about 12 hours for live trade deadline coverage as we move towards the actual deadline, which is in 14 hours and 50 minutes. We're getting there. I hope to see you again in the chat. Get some sleep, get some rest. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Who wins this trade and why? There's a lot of different perspectives you could take on it. I want to hear them all down in the comments. We'll talk soon, everybody. Good night, get some rest, and get excited for the 2024 trade deadline.